Hi, everybody. I'm Sheen, the energetic vanguard, and it is 8 p.m. on June 13th, 2024. And I'm super happy to have you watching this video and participating near and far. We are here today to talk about walk-ins. What the heck is a walk-in? And what do I do about it? So my assumption would have to be that if you have any interest in this topic whatsoever, it's highly possible that you are a walk-in indeed. I'll give you a little bit of backstory for me. I started off, I've had so many different changes in my life, but it took quite a while for me to realize exactly what was going on. So what happened was that I was basically a revolving door, and I am currently the 13th occupant of this body. That does not mean there's 13 beings still in this body because I've done my work so that I am just the 13th occupant. And I like it that way. It doesn't mean I'll be the last, but this is the one I am now. And despite this body's swinging 60s origin, it was in June of 2020 when I was bit by a rattlesnake that I had my most current occupant, which is me, the one who's speaking now. I kept denying the fact that there could be anything going on like that, but my entire life changed at that point. I started becoming aware of how the relationships I had were not working in whatsoever. My interests completely changed. I have been changing my career, my hobbies, you name it. It was so obvious now that I look back and I know what was going on. And it took a while for me to come to terms with that. But when I had a facilitator friend of mine say, guess what? You're a walk-in, all of a sudden things just started magically unraveling, and I was able to, after a 3-hour session with the same facilitator, was able to actually start to unwind everything that had been going on in my life, all these crazy things. So let's get started in finding out if you are a walk-in as well. So there's 14 basic symptoms of being a walk-in. And the first one is, if you are on a spiritual path or an awakening journey, most likely you're a walk-in. So less than 5% relate to this walk-in experience. And yet for those of us who are diving deep into self-growth and enlightenment, like probably you are if you're watching this, you most likely are a walk-in. What we have determined in a group that I'm in is that at least 65 to 70%, probably more than that, are actually having a walk-in or are currently walk-ins. Um, actually, the number of people that I work with, they're almost all walk-ins. So I would say the number is probably higher than that at this point. The clients that I've been working with have become walk-ins within the last 5 years, many of them in the last 2 years. So it's pretty interesting what's going on in the world right now. So why are we walk-ins? That's a really great question I'd like to answer with you too. So you've basically indicated to the universe that you're interested in moving in beyond a normal unconscious existence, and you're open to exploring out of the box, like totally out of the box compared to the general population. So you're seeking more awareness of what life is about and your general connection with it. So you basically hung up a flag and said, hey, I'm done with this boring existence. It's time for me to explore something else. So that's what primarily happens. That's the first symptom of having a walk-in. Number two, which was a really big one for me, having incomplete memories of my childhood, like parts missing with little or no emotion with it whatsoever. Um, the first time it really hit me that that was a possibility, actually, there's a couple of times. I have a friend that I've had since, I don't know, when I was 7, 8. And having gone through so many different experiences with walk-ins, she would talk to me at times and talk about things we did. I had zero recollection whatsoever. Ended up calling her my memory because she had a great memory of all these great things, fun things that we did together. Didn't ring a bell to me whatsoever. So I was thinking maybe my memory is just really bad. And then the more I started looking into it, I started thinking, well, maybe I had some really traumatic experience that shut down all those memories. That's what a lot of psychiatrists would tell you had happened, right? But we'll get into that in a minute too, but that's not the case either. When it really hit home for me was when my brother was transitioning from this physical reality into the spiritual reality back in 2012. One of the last communications he and I had together was that neither of us could remember growing up together. Neither. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, what happened? Did we both have a similar, traumatic experience and neither one of us remember our past? But that wasn't the case. But I really started going down a rabbit hole. Then I was thinking something really bad must have happened to both of us, and it sent me into tailspin for a couple years, which was unfortunate, but it did lead me to where I am now. So I'm very excited to share this information with you now. So if you have missing memories from it's possible childhood, it's possible that you are indeed a walk-in. If you would, if you've got a piece of paper and a pen, just write down the number of symptoms that you have of walk-in. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. So the first was you're on a spiritual path or awakening journey. Second is missing childhood memories. The third symptom is you've had a dramatic life change, either with your career, relationship, location, you name, etc. So I don't know very many people that I'm personally engaged with that have not experienced this. So walk-in is almost by definition a change in personality in the body. So each personality, facet being has a different focus, interest, and so just a different way of expressing itself. So it's common for walk-ins to undergo dramatic life changes. Um, and so how soon after a dramatic the change is seems to be vary from person to person. While many years ago, these changes commonly followed some big dramatic accident, or even surgery or like a drug or alcohol overdose. Today, walk-ins can occur with amazing subtlety over a year or more. So the change is only noticed in hindsight, which was definitely my case as well. So things have just amped up immensely on this planet, which is super fun, right? But it's also very enlightening once you realize and start pulling back all the layers of the onion. So a walk-in commonly agrees to wrap up or resolve the previous occupant's life before beginning their own. So let me scoot up here. Um, so there's a transition that occurs over time from the previous occupant's interests and relationships. So a lot of times that will kind of um, blend slowly, and you get to choose whether or not you're going to keep those interests from the previous lifetime or not. But that way, it's not such a jolting experience. Some people have a jolting experience where they're completely different and they have no interest whatsoever in the previous existence, which is kind of a jarring experience to the family and friends that are close to them. But each being in a facet or soul has its own agenda. So things it wants to accomplish or explore during its time here on Earth. Once the walk-in tidies up and wraps up the previous occupant's life, they begin to focus on their own exploration. So if anything like that sounds familiar, please go ahead and mark that down. Number 4, you've experienced feelings of wanting to die or not be here anymore. I know my previous occupant absolutely felt that way, and it was not a pleasant experience for me, and I'm sure I was not a whole lot of fun to be around at that time either. So if you've ever felt that way, that is a very common symptom. So what happens is walk-ins commonly experience some period of intermittent feelings of wanting to die and just not be here anymore because they're wrapped up, they're done. They bought a one-way ticket out of here and they just want to go. So they just want to the walk-in often has a sensation of just being done. Like I said, buying a one-way ticket and getting out of here. If the sensation sticks around, what that typically means that if it's an extended period of time, it means that that walk-in is actually trapped and a part of the previous occupant is still in the body. So sometimes when a new soul enters the body, they kind of hang on to the previous occupant for a variety of reasons. Common are they want to know how the body works. They need to know how to do this job. They can be my friend, the previous occupant. In general, holding on to previous occupants causes most of the problems and confusion that actually occurs. So if that sounds familiar to you, go ahead and mark that down. So let's move on to number 5. You've thought about suicide at times. It's pretty much the same as above, but far more serious. So walk-ins who are more tangled commonly explore this much more seriously. So whether they've actually tried to commit suicide or not, they notice these ongoing feelings and thoughts. And sometimes they're okay with life, and other times they want to check out. So remember, the outgoing soul chose to die, right? It's leaving, it's exiting, it doesn't care what happens, it's just checking out. So if you attempt to keep them with you in the body, they commonly keep trying to die or just remain very, very depressed and feeling trapped. So it can be a very confusing for the new being coming in. So for some people, the previous soul will attempt to die again and again, and they will do whatever it takes to leave. So if you find you keep going back and forth between feeling like you have a new life and you're really excited and wanting to die, like your feelings trapped and you're feeling stuck, you most likely have a previous occupant tangled up in there, and you want to release the previous occupant. And we'll go through that here momentarily. So number 6, you've experienced times in your life when nothing was important or mattered to me. You've just totally flatlined, and no matter what, nothing interests you any longer. And while this is not something that is only a walk-in would feel, this turns out to be a more common experience among walk-ins. They go through a phase when many things they just lose excitement or fun about, and that used to be really fun for the previous occupant. So people, places, hobbies, jobs, long life focus just really don't matter anymore. The passion is gone, which I don't like to use that word because passion actually means suffering. So that's not always a bad thing if it's to be gone. But anyway, why does this happen? Commonly, when the outgoing occupant is done, this is how it feels. Nothing matters. The outgoing being is ready to leave. They're done, right? Once the previous occupant does leave, the sensation goes away. And if your previous occupant still is in the body with you, then you may still experience this from time to time. If you try to keep living with a previous occupant's life, you'll find it lifeless, boring, uninteresting, and life will typically stay that way until you find and move into your being's new interest. That's key. So number 7, sometimes I'm just not sure who I am and life is really confusing. So while many people experience questions about who I am and why am I here, they do it from a space of curiosity. Walk-ins commonly just feel blurry and foggy, like they just can't perceive the normal definition of self, like they lost a part of themselves and are just living in a state of confusion. So sometimes they might feel one way about something, and then they feel like a total opposite. So they're just all over the place. So a good way to find out, I love this graphic. So do you have other occupants in your body? This is what we think it looks like: a bright blue, crystal clear color, or a yellow or green or whatever it is. But what it's really like in the body is a big jumbled mess, because all of these occupants have gotten in there together and they're all mixed up and jumbled up, and the body does not know how to handle it. It can't lock onto just one experience, because there's so many in there. The body basically just shuts down and it becomes numb and lifeless. So that's a strong sign that you still have another occupant in the body with you. So when you mix in light of two beings, things become muddled and confused, and you're not sure who you are because there's just too many occupants in there. So this is also going to be a symptom of having entities, which is a whole different story we could talk about too, in your body, but also common with people who've had multiple walk-ins, surgeries, intense experiences, or drug or alcohol issues. So mark that down if that sounds familiar. Number 8, I don't know what my passions or interests are. Life is flat. So this is just a little bit deeper into the previous one. So walk-ins seem to lose all of their sense of motivation, their interests, their passion, their excitement about life, even things they used to love just simply don't matter anymore because they're not theirs. That's not who they are anymore. So it's kind of like depression, but not as strong. It's more like just flat, blah, blah, blah. Just like all the zip and excitement in the life is gone, and there's no particular reason for it. It just doesn't make sense. So some people will even experience the sensation of it being a void, like a big, large, empty cavity of space with absolutely no enthusiasm for anything. While this feeling kind of comes and goes, it can be mildly disturbing and not all at the same time. It's very confusing. So why does this happen? Having this for a short period of time can be normal, but if this feeling continues for a long period of time or wobbles in and out, you likely have a trapped previous occupant who feels this way. And this can be an indicator of an outgoing occupant that is partially released and partially in the void of existence, but still partially in the body. So after the previous occupants and baggage are clear, direction and purpose return naturally. So it's really important to get that taken care of, and we'll go over all that in a minute. So number 9, I don't seem to be as connected to my family, my friends anymore. I'm just more distant. I've checked out because they're not your friends or family, right? You're the new occupant. That belonged to the previous occupant, or the occupant before that, or before that, or before that. So walk-ins commonly feel torn between wanting to be connected with their family and friends and not have any connection whatsoever anymore. So it's like these people who used to be your family and close friends just feel further away. They're completely distant, and you have no real interest or pull to connect with them again. So why does this happen? Because they're not your family and friends. They were family and friends of the occupant before, just like I mentioned. You didn't pick these people. You haven't lived with these people, and you don't feel a strong sense of connection with them. You may feel more like you are feeling like your old self, but when you're feeling connected to the new you, these friends and family just don't resonate anymore. Commonly, the walk-in will do their best back out of these relationships without traumatizing your friends and family. You may retain some friends that still have some similar interests, but more commonly, you find new ones who resonate more and feel more connected to the new version of you. So, number 10, you had a major accident or illness, and then your whole life changed. So, in some cases, a walk in situation was created by some form of manipulation or interference, we'll get into also. It's trying to block you from evolving. An experience of being knocked unconscious by some means, such as an accident or sorts of blacking out or due to surgery or drug or alcohol overdose. While this is not necessary to have a walk in, many, many years ago is much more common. So today it can happen much more subtly, and some beings never even realize it occurred. Things just start getting really, really wonky, and there's no logical explanation for it whatsoever. So why does this happen? A previous being or soul left, you came in, and the space of unconsciousness was used to transfer beings and energies while the body systems were offline. But yeah, it's just easier for this to occur when you're not awake. So, welcome to your new life. Enjoy it. Yay. So, number 11, I keep trying to make sense of my life, but things just don't make sense anymore. So, walk ins have deep questioning of why they had certain experiences in the past. They seek to make sense of their life and put together the pieces that just don't make sense. They notice inconsistencies, discrepancies, holes in their storyline, and look for answers or resolution to it, but may not find any yet. So many walk-ins sense that there's been some shifty or covert things that happened in their youth, but they are at a loss to explain it. So having a feeling like they are part of some undercover secret operation is an common experience for walk-ins. So I went through that myself too, and trying to figure out what is going on in my body. So why does this occur? This is often because you think you are still the same person before the walk-in change. So you're trying to connect feelings, thoughts, desires that are different from who you used to be to who you are now. And it just doesn't add up or make sense. So you're not the same person. Your interests and desires have changed because you're not the same person. There actually is no congruency, so things will never make sense without the understanding that you are now different, a different soul in the same body. So, and at the same time, you are more aware that the previous occupant was, and so you are likely noticing there were manipulations or alterations of the previous occupant's life. So these are useful to allow yourself to perceive, and that's key. It can help explain the depth of strange things that occurred throughout your body's history. So, number 12, the thought of being born a baby just sounds really sucky. I have absolutely no interest whatsoever of learning how to talk and crawl and go to the bathroom on my own. That just does not light me up. As strange as it sounds, if you have that perspective, you're probably not a walk-in, but you're a walk-in most likely if people who don't like the thought of being a baby. So mark that down if that might be you. Number 13, you keep retelling stories of the past, but they have no emotion whatsoever. Walk-ins commonly have an almost urgent desire to keep retelling stories of the past as if they're important and they're just trying to make sense of it and try to make it concrete in their reality. Yet, because they're not the person who lived them, they're telling somebody else's story. So there's no emotion associated with it, unless you're a really good actor, I suppose. It's like talking about a movie you watched rather than something you lived. It's often done in an attempt to retain or somehow create a sense of community where none actually exists. So mark that down if that sounds familiar to you too. Number 14, not being able to make decisions, to choose, to create, or have direction. So during a walk-in transition, or if there's a previous occupant still in the body, it can be really difficult to make decisions. You keep changing your mind because there's not just one mind in there. Wait, now what you choose, even simple things, feel like you can create effectively like you used to. So this is part of the confusion that exists from having more than one being living inside the same body, and that is literally what is happening. So as long as there are multiple souls or spirits or occupants in the same body, the energies blur together. Remember that graphic up here, that's right here, of all the different colors that are all muddled together? That's exactly what's going on. It makes it really unclear. So making decisions and creating is really very difficult. So let's talk about how many symptoms you have. If you have 7 or more of the symptoms above, it's a pretty solid chance that you're a walk-in. And we'll get more clarity later, but for now, if you have higher numbers, just be open to the possibility. So let's talk a little bit more about what a walk-in is. So it's, if you can think of your body like a house, a place where your essence, your spirit, your being, your soul can hang out in there, then like a physical house, your body can have multiple owners. When one owner feels complete, it can transfer the house body to a new owner who will take possession and continue the life of that body. So previously, each body house was specifically built for its one and only owner. And when that owner was done there, the house would be destroyed, AKA the body would die. The body's template was always custom designed to be with one owner. And so the house could only ever have one owner. But beginning in the 1960s, along came a new design of universal body templates just to make things fun and interesting. These bodies have the ability to be flexible enough to change or transform themselves to suit a variety of owners. As one owner decided it was done with the body, a new owner could move in and the body would automatically update, remodel, or shapeshift to be suitable for the needs of its next owner. While this body transition isn't quick or easy or comfortable, it became a new possibility that more aware beings sometimes chose to utilize because it provided a unique opportunity for expansion. In this way, it became possible for one body to have a series of different owners, which was pretty exciting to people or beings like us. And thus the walk-in concept was born. So one being, a spirit, soul, whatever you like to call them, could leave and allow a different being or spirit to come and take over. Or what happens more commonly is that the larger essence or oversoul could send another facet of itself to explore a different focus in the same body. So it gave the larger essence oversoul the capacity to have a greater diversity of experiences and a shorter time frame. So your larger essence oversoul, think of your larger essence oversoul as a massive multifaceted diamond that contains much more than can fit into one body or life experience. A collection of many different personalities, aspects with different interests, focuses, and ways of expressing itself. It's like your personal oversoul, a collection of all possible aspects of the complete diversity of you as an expression of one essence or source. Let me repeat that again. So it's like your own personal or oversoul, a collection of all possible aspects of the complete diversity of you. and all of the expression of one essence or source. So it's like who you are at an essence level is just way too big and way too diverse to express all of its aspects of you in one body and one life. So previously, your larger oversoul would project only one personality facet of you into a body for that lifetime. With a newer adaptive universal body template, your essence oversoul can now send one personality facet of your larger, greater self, bigger self into the body for a number of years to explore a particular life focus and then change it. So that was pretty exciting for beings like us. When the facet was done experiencing, the larger essence oversoul could then send a different personality facet into the same body to experience a different aspect of the larger self and explore a different life focus. So while retaining the same body. So it just simplifies the process. You can get a lot more done that way. So one essence oversoul could explore many aspects of itself without having to engage multiple different bodies and waiting for the body to go through childhood each time, etc. So even if it was even possible with practice for an essence oversoul to send multiple facets of the larger self into the same body at the same time, allowing for a greater experience and knowing of the larger self while still in the body. So, for those humans who have come here to explore awareness and the consciousness that comes with it, this was a particularly popular and exciting choice. So, as a person has more facets of its larger self in the same body, it also gains an easier sense of its larger essence oversoul and thus its true nature. So, walk ins become a really popular option for those who are seeking awareness and like to do it quickly. Sound like me? Does it sound like you? So there's yet another benefit of essence over souls that are found from this capacity. It's the ability to get out of a life that became a trap. So this planet has gotten increasingly corrupted by non-physical exploiter corruptor energies, which is a whole different topic, but we're going to touch on it briefly, who are seeking to prevent people from becoming aware. So it's not unusual for a person to come to this planet with the intention to become aware, to find their childhood has been altered from the original plan, to make the experience dramatically more difficult, tangly, uncomfortable, and for some, literally a living hell. So a walk-in became an exit strategy for people whose life had gotten so messed up with that, they became trapped and were no longer able to move forward. So rather than giving up and staying stuck, the larger soul essence, oversoul, could walk in, create a walk in transition, reset, and work around all the old limitations that were installed to trap the previous being. So traps installed by interference could have an emergency exit. Brilliant. To walk out of the body and bring through a different facet that would not be so impacted by those old manipulations installed by interference. This is often used as a last resort because each walk-in creates the potential for complications for the body and the being. For many aware beings, this last resort emergency exit has been very necessary. So what happens to the other being who walked out? It's a very great question. Thanks for asking that. So the answer that we found is that a complex, it's a really complex to answer because there's so many options available. But in general, if a walk-in transition is done with the same larger essence oversoul, the essence oversoul can either retract that being facet to rejoin the larger diamond, or the essence or it could have it go into a different body, which is less common. So if a walk-in is done between two different larger essence oversouls, which is less common than what happened in my case over the 13 beings, then the outgoing essence continues on its journey as the larger essence oversoul chooses. So there's more than a dozen different possibilities for the essence that the essence oversoul has. So it's never a dull moment. So if you're familiar with the soul and how is that different from the being? So I've been using those two words interchangeably, but they're actually not. So the soul is the construct that most people are familiar with when referencing due to the conditioning in this reality. Soul is a religious construct that gods have created in an attempt to control humans by enticing them to accept a fake essence as their soul. So many different gods, and we know there's thousands of them, have created a soul for you, hoping you'll claim it as your own and therefore think of yourself as being created and in service to that God. So most aware humans are either sourced from the authentic universe or are infinite beings that come from beyond it. So an infinite being is an essence that exists or is sourced from beyond this multiverse. It's projected itself into this universe. It was not created by or subservient to this universe, nor some god parasite pretending to have created this world. I know that raised some alarms, but this is just my perspective right now on June 13th, 2024. So, say an aware infinite being are often considered visiting co-creators of this universe, and in such cannot cease to exist regardless of what happens in this universe, for their essence is sourced from beyond it. As a result, they have a very vast viewpoint and see things from a larger perspective than even the universe does at times. So, universal beings are aspects of the larger source of the multiverse that are here representing and experiencing the universe. They're sourced from within the multiverse, but have a very large perspective. They're like aspects of the authentic universe embodied. So being soul, because soul is designed as a religious entrapment and not accurate, I'm deliberately now using being to represent the spirit that enters the body. So here's a fun one. Can a demon or a non-human spirit walk into a body? A possession. It's kind of a tricky answer. So it's yes and no. So a demon is a non-human spirit, obviously, we hope, is not complex enough to directly operate a human body. It can only possess or take over one that is already being run by a facet. So, however, it is possible for a demon interface to insert itself uh, with a scheduled walk-in and effectively sneak in during this confusion of an authentic walk-in transition. So we'll talk more about that to be clear, and we'll get more clear about this later in the this class in a section called shove in, slam in, which I also got to experience. But a demon or spirit can't force a walk-in or take over a body directly. It can only manipulate a walk-in process. So hopefully that helps clarify things. So how does the walk-in experience occur? When the individualized facet or essence has completed what it set out to accomplish in a lifetime, in that body, the larger oversoul essence has four basic options. The first is to stay with the body until it dies, which doesn't sound like a lot of fun, to swap out personality aspects or facets and bring in a different being from the same essence oversoul. Three, add an additional facet to join the one that's in the body already, just makes things much more complex. Or walk out of the body and let some other essence oversoul take over the body and the house gets a new owner. So a walk-in is chosen, an agreement can be made with another essence oversoul to walk in completely different being and continue the embodiment, which is actually a much more simple process and much more pleasant than the dying process in most cases. After the new being comes in, the body will begin to modify and adapt itself to provide the new being with a suited that's more suited to its needs. So within the body template, there's a great capacity for change. The walk-in experience is incredibly individual, and it's difficult to give a definitive description, but here's a sampling of some possible experiences. So before and during the transition, usually there's a try-on period for a few days, months, or even can go on for longer than that. When the new body being, excuse me, the new being tries on the body before the actual transfer. But the current occupant may or may not be aware of its presence. So if the occupant is aware, there may be a feeling of someone hanging around in or near the body that seems friendly and familiar. The new being is getting a feel for the body. The new being is also reviewing the DNA encodements and the existing energy patterns stored in all of the energy bodies and deciding what to keep or to change or how feasible the transition would be. So sometimes right before a walk-in, the outgoing personality may feel a building sense of completion and just being done with this lifetime. They may manifest as extreme fatigue, severe depression, or even suicidal feelings. So this is the occupant's way of interpreting that a transfer is underway. So if wanting to be done, suicidal feeling continues for an extended period of time, it may just indicate the transition already occurred, the outgoing being got trapped and never left, and we'll talk more about this shortly too. So there's hope. So after the transition, the bottom line in the process of integration and connection and attunement with the physical body um, can be very interesting. Once the new occupant is fully connected and the previous occupant's gone, the body will rewire itself to suit the new occupant. It's an amazing, amazing thing the body does. The body is its own natural organic being. It's not, we possess and own this body while we're in it, but the body is its own needs, wants, and desires. But it does whatever it can to support us. It makes the being, the primary being in the body, its primary focus. So it's very interesting in that way. So before the new occupant is fully integrated into the body, a walk-in is like a sponge for the emotions, all the traits and the beliefs of the people around them. It's important that a new walk-in choose carefully the people they spend time with, because those people they spend time with can unduly influence a new occupant until it's fully plugged into the body. And that can really cause some chaos too. Body is also commonly chosen because its expression is compatible with the goals of the incoming being. And it's useful to realize that you, the new occupant, will do things differently than the previous occupant because you're not the same being, right? Even the way each person functions in the body will be different. So the way the previous occupant operated and interacted with the physical body can be very different from how the new occupant will. It's not about operating the body and life in just the same way that the previous occupant did. This won't work correctly for the new being, period. So being around other people. Much to the dismay of people around them, a new walk-in goes often through changes in personality, and this can be very upsetting for people who do not want you to change. So if that sounds familiar, just write that down, because that's something we'll talk about too in a few minutes. It can be very difficult for people who are experiencing having someone as a walk-in that's in their life, because nothing makes sense anymore. So what is important for you to notice, it will make your life much easier if you can let go of what does not belong to you in a way that is kind and caring for the other people. That would be best. However, if you keep trying to live the life that is not actually yours and hanging on to memories that are not actually yours, then that can cause problems for you and everybody around you. This new being, you have a choice, and you can choose to occupy and own all the baggage if you want. It's just not yours, or you can release it. And I strongly recommend that you use this opportunity as a walk-in to jettison all that old stuff out that you did not personally create and not get attached to it. So once you choose to make it yours, it will become yours. So let's go on to the next topic. My being a walk-in is initially a big mind fuck. It's probably the most intense experience you can imagine. You walk into a life that's full of another person's emotions, their thoughts, their feelings, their relationships, their garbage, and you have to figure out who the new you is amongst all that. And it does get easier over time, but not quickly, and not often if you don't actually focus on cleaning all that up. So after the transition, everything is confusing as hell. And all the old expectations from the previous occupant's life are pressing on you. All the old baggage feels really real. And at the same time, the agents of interference are going to do their best to trip you up and make things more confusing. So, my suggestion, to the degree that you can, walk away, let go of your old life. My 13th transition was definitely the easiest because I had a little bit of a clue what was going on. I let go of my old relationship, started to replace my free source of income, all while trying to figure out who the new me actually was and how I'm going to learn and earn a living now. So no stress at all. I went from being a holistic health coach to being a facilitator that I am today. So while a lot of the pieces were already in place, there's so much more that I need to figure out. And I'm still working on that too. But like, who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? And what the fuck is going on? It's become so much more clear though since I've untangled all those walk-in issues. So when you're feeling really good about life and feeling clear, you're experiencing life as your authentic self. And I cannot express to you enough about how different it feels when you get all of that fuckery cleaned up. It's incredibly liberating. So let's talk about, do you have complications? Because that's what we're all here to know. After you find out you're a walk-on, which if you're here, it's highly possible that you are. This is really important to note. And this, once I got my head wrapped around this and my being sensed that this was real and true for me, there was such a huge sigh of relief because the walk-in process can become interfered with. There's many manipulators creating complications that can make things completely unpleasant. And while these can resolve themselves over time, awareness of these things can dramatically speed up the process. So the spirit of the previous occupant doesn't fully leave the body. That's very, very common for the reasons we talked about before. And the symptoms of that are feeling like you're done wanting to die. One day you're eager and the next day you're not. It's hard to stay in your body. You're feeling trapped and void and nothingness, difficulty thinking, blah, blah, blah. In some cases, previous occupants who are stuck in the body will attempt to cause the body illness. I've actually known people who are walk-ins that created the cancer because they were so ready to leave, and that being can figure out any other way to leave the body other than just to have it die. So that's another thing, another great reason to get rid of all the previous occupant stuff, because it can cause so much confusion and they want to leave, so it's best to let them leave. So baggage from the previous occupants retained in the body. The incoming being processes out and releases all the old files and stored items that the previous occupant held in the body, ideally. Some walk-ins mistakenly assume that these items may be useful in some way because the baggage attuned to the frequency of the outgoing occupant is not useful to the incoming occupant, but it feels like it could be, so they're afraid to let go of it, so they hang on to it. Or more often than not, in simple cases, a sense of the confusion of the body slows down the integration process. So just simply ask that the baggage be returned to the previous occupant. That's one thing that you can do. But please get rid of it all. Just get rid of all. It's not you, let it go. So nothing being plugged in or connected to the body is nothing. Being plugged in is a visual metaphor you can use to this. Just imagine that you have a plug in your body somewhere, but it's been unplugged. So you're going to plug it back in. And this, you're going to make the statement, this is my body, I own this body. This is my body, I own this body. The main symptoms of not being plugged in or connected are having low energy levels on some days, your body doesn't feel like yours, it's not syncing up with you. Interference feels like it has free run of your body, but you don't have much access. All these things typically mean that there's some interference that is preventing you from connecting to your body. And once you clear it, things get so much more simple and you'll feel completely energized. So another thing that will let you know that if you have some issues with your transition was not knowing. So it's quite common for a walk-in to have had other walk-in transitions at other times in their life. 3 to 5 walk-ins is typical. I'm atypical. But that's the way I like it, right? For many walk-ins, the mind works tirelessly to hide the information from the previous walk-ins experience from the occupant. So if a walk-in is unconscious, there's usually a feeling of having something very important to accomplish. If I could only remember what it is. So some walk-ins never know what really happened. And just because they went through a dramatic life change. The range of awareness spans across the board, but I found that the more you are aware of it, the more likely you are to become your new purpose. and connect to your most fulfilling course of action. So, in summary, each walk-in experience has its own joys and its own challenges, but recognize that anything that's happened to you, any stories that came before your walk-in experience didn't actually belong to you. And that's why you may not have full memory of the experience. So, reminding yourself of this and letting go of those old stories that are not yours can greatly assist you in integrating your past and stepping into the expression you came here to explore. So, letting it all go, the stories of your past will greatly assist you. The one thing that walk-ins find often is important is to be kind to your physical body. So self-care is very valuable. So please do that. So claim your body. You'll find your body wants nothing more than that, and to be your best friend and partner and help you in any way that it can. So here's some common types of transitions, which is pretty fascinating. I've experienced all of these. Most of the clients that I work with have experienced at least one, but there's 4 common types of walk-in transitions that occur. They're only generalizations. There are actually many more than this. So there's a swap, which means that there's a same essence, oversoul, traits, personality facets, which is something we talked about. Simple swap. Each essence, oversoul has way more aspects than it can bring into its body in one time. So it just swaps them out. Another is an addition. It's emerging. Another part joins in. So there's more than one facet. There's multiple fragments or facets that can come together to build a richer, more exciting expression. So following this transition off feels more like it's fuller or complete version of the same person. Another way it can occur is an exchange, which is a different essence oversoul enters. One essence oversoul, the diamond, gives its connection to the body, withdraws its being or personality facet completely. An agreement is made to transfer the body entirely to another different essence oversoul to take over and bring its being or personality facet in. So it's not just a facet swap, it's an entirely new diamond that's projecting this being into the body. Another less pleasant version of a walk-in experience is a slam in or shove in, which I also get the pleasure of experiencing, which I love unraveling with other people. It's the most problematic change. Some form of interference intercedes in the walk-in process and inserts itself into the unprotected incoming being and merges with a new occupant during entry. So remember we talked about that a little bit. They sneakily come in during a scheduled walk-in. So these can be off-world energies that feels alien. Alien energy feels harsh, jagged, and nasty. And alien doesn't necessarily mean it came from outer space. It just means something that's not your body. It can be demonic energies, which is intense wrongness. It just wants to shame and blame you for everything. But it's typically a non-human corruption that found a way to sneak in and embed itself during the process. So these are the most challenging as they anchor all manner of weird things into your body with you. So that's something you really, really want to address. We're going to go over some clearing here in just a moment, but if you're going to be dealing with something like a slam in, shove in, it's really good to work with a facilitator on that because it can get really, really nasty and very tedious. So about 30% of humans who have had multiple walk-in transition experience have had some form of a slam in or shove in attempt. Doesn't mean they were successful, it just means they attempted. So typically this is seen as a failed walk-in, so that the being will often attempt another walk-in after that in order to try to replace the corruption. Sometimes this clears it up, most of the time it doesn't. So it's really good to get that looked at with a second set of eyes. So questions to discover your truth. Since everybody is having to watch the recording tonight, fortunately, I have a list of common questions. So let's talk about finding what is actually true for you. The first thing to realize is that your mind has been conditioned to hide and cover up abnormalities in you from the reality of you. So it seeks to keep everything normal and as consistent as possible. So thinking about walk-ins is not going to net you any useful information. So your brain is not going to be your friend in this. It will unconsciously do its best to hide and keep you safe and distort any information from you about this. So your body, on the other hand, has been a part of you and has facilitated all the transitions that occur. It's also really aware and it's independent of you. So your body knows what's occurred and it knows how to ask. It's quite happy to tell you. So the trick is just to make sure that your body is clear and it's acting like a barometer for you. So for me, I go with light and expansive or expanded and contracted. So that's why I call it a barometer. It's a barometric pressure reading. Um, I'll give you an example. I would like to start people with saying a true statement like, for me, I'd say body. I go by the name Sheen, and I can feel my whole body, just like all the space comes in between my cells and it expands out. And I can feel like a really nice sigh of relief. So to me, that's what expansion feels like. Now, if I say body, I go by the name of Bob. All of a sudden, my cells start to contract. There's less air available for me to take a nice deep breath. And that's what false feels like for me. So some people can use pendulums, dowsing with other things, kinesiology. I use my body now as a barometer for true and false, and light and heavy, and expansion and contraction. So let's explore this. For example, ask your body this question. Ask your authentic body. It's really important to say authentic body. We could get into program body in a different course, but this is for authentic body. So authentic body, ask your body, does it like ice cream? And just noticed the sensation or the response in your body, not your mind. Okay. You want to feel this through your entire body, not focused here. Okay. When I first started doing this, everything was focused here and I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't bringing my entire body into the experience. So, authentic body, do you like spinach? Does your body feel contracted or does it feel expansive? So, which is lighter, which is heavier? So really start practicing with that. When you know something is true without any points of view about it, you know something is a fact. So you have freckles on your skin or your hair is red. You know, these are facts. You just practice with that and start testing your body. So the more you practice this, believe me, the easier it gets. The caveat is if you have multiple beings or entities inside your body with you or previous occupants, there's a lot of interference going on. This may not be as easy to do. So it's really helpful to work with a facilitator at that point because they don't have all that stuff going on. It's your body. You may have those things going on. So if you really feel like there's some confusion with your heavy or light or heavy, expansive and contractive, then reach out to myself or into another facilitator. So here's some really good walk-in questions. Truth, body, authentic body, am I a walk-in? And just pause and feel what energy comes up. Or truth, body, authentic body, am I the same occupant born into this body? That feels really heavy to me. Okay, so another great question. Truth, authentic body. Have I been the only owner of this body? And just pause and notice what you feel. Or have there been other previous owners of this body? And does that feel heavier or lighter? Does it feel expansive or contractive? And if you have been the only owner, then you are likely not a walk-in. If there have been other owners, then you're a walk-in. So for this one, we really need to clarify terminology. So think of your body like your house, and the soul being has the owner of the house. And when a person wants to move, they can sell the house to another occupant or owner, and this new person becomes the new owner, equal primary occupant. This is different from visitors or squatters or even renters. They never own the house or the body, so they're not considered the primary occupant and don't count here. Got it? Okay. So another set of great questions is truth, authentic body. How many previous occupants or owners of this body have there been? One, more than one. And then you can go 5, more than 5, 10, more than 10, and just keep asking those questions till you feel like you've gotten clarity about that. So it's also very important to start talking about walk-in complications. So there's some other great questions here for your body. Truth, authentic body. Is there any baggage from previous occupants still in this body? For me, that feels heavy. It's because I've spent Probably so much time getting all that cleared out. But just notice how that feels for you. And the next question is, or authentic body, is the old baggage gone? And what do you notice? Is it heavy? Is it light, expanded, contracted? And then another great question is truth, body, are spirits, spirits of any previous occupants or owners still in the body? Or are they gone? So these are some questions you can be asking on your own. This is all part of the ebook I'll be sending you if you register for this class. Another questions, set of questions, truth, authentic body. Has there ever been a previous occupant, owner that got corrupted and attempted to come into the body? That's a loaded question. Or has that not occurred here? Truth, authentic body. Are there corrupted previous occupants, owners still in the body? Or have they been removed? Now, if you don't get anything clear there, that's pretty much your answer. Because if there are previous occupants that are corrupted, it's highly likely they don't wish for you to have clarity around that answer. So just make note of that. Another great set of questions is truth body. Am I correctly connected and plugged in? Or am I disconnected from you? Okay. So those are some questions. Again, they'll be part of the ebook that I sent to you. So avoid thinking about these things. Realize that your mind was conditioned by this reality to hide things from you that could possibly be dangerous or upsetting or considered abnormal or socially unacceptable. So your mind worked really hard to hide all this from you and for your entire life or lifetimes. Also realize that there are likely things that have occurred in your process that your mind has no context for or understanding. So it often resists or just throws the information because it has no way of making sense of it, just throws it in the trash. So that's one of the reasons that you just don't wish to use your mind when you're asking these questions. It's really important to start communicating with the body. I do about everything. When I ask body, what would you like to eat for breakfast today? Which way would you like to turn if I'm going on a long road trip? Would you, even if this way is faster, would you prefer to go the other way? And body gets to choose because body's driving the car. So just play around with it and start asking questions all the time with your body until you know that you have such an intimate relationship, because it is the most intimate relationship you will ever have, is the relationship with your body. Once you've really become very clear about your connection, the two of you, you're going to see massive changes. Your body is your greatest partner. It's your greatest friend. So here's some more great questions for clearing imprinting baggage. Truth, authentic body. Is there any baggage from previous occupants still in the body? There are some symptoms with this. They're a little bit more subtle. Vagueness about what you want to do in your life, because it just, your body, you're not creating like you want to. The solution, of course, is to release all this old baggage from previous occupants. You can just do that by making statements, but if you're not feeling like something is moving in the direction you really like it to go, or it feels like there's still something muddled up about that, that's one of the ways a facilitator can assist with you. So releasing previous occupants, we've gone over many, many times now why it's so important to do that. So truth, authentic body, are spirits of previous occupants or owners still in the body, or are they gone? Symptoms can feel like confusion or fogginess, not knowing who you are, not having clarity, feeling flaky, not being able to decide, yada, yada, yada. This is a major issue. So releasing the agreements and clearing out the trapped previous occupants that likely want to die anyway because they've already bought their one-way ticket and they're still stuck in your body. It's very important to let them go. So we can go over that together later. Corrupted previous occupants are called a shove-in or a slam-in, which we talked about what those are. Truth, authentic body. Has there ever been a previous occupant, owner that got corrupted and attempted to come into the body? Another one, truth, authentic body. Are there corrupted previous occupants or owners still in the body? And symptoms of this are there's still same uncomfortable symptoms of number two, with the addition of the inner presence of demonics or aliens, which are just not fun to deal with. If you have demons, you have the energy of something inside periodically attempting to gain power and dominance over you. There's constant feelings of anger and rage and unworthiness and wrongness and blame and shame, and none of those belong to you. Those are all symptoms of having a demonic presence. If they're aliens, and again, that's something that's not of your body, or could be something else. It could actually be aliens, but you have this controlling manipulative energy that surface periodically attempting to control you and become subservient to you. So you likely have issues with being nasty with yourself and other people. You're finding yourself trying to dominate other people at times. These are all symptoms of having an alien presence too. So it's like you have a fake or hollowed out previous occupant trapped in your body with you who's been taken over by something really controlling that feels like it's trying to take over the current you. So you see things can get a little bit tangly in there if you don't know how to untangle all this stuff. So just keep that in mind. You have someone here that can assist you now. So getting plugged in, truth, authentic body. Am I correctly connected and plugged in? Or am I disconnected from you? So feeling disconnected from your body, things not syncing up in your body as well as you'd like. You have low energy or enthusiasm for your life. And the solution is typically there have been alien corruptions that have tried to disconnect you from your body because it's easier to control you when you're not plugged in and connected to your body. So integrating takes time. After all these above steps have been completed, it does take several days to a week or even longer for the body to readjust and to ferment in all these great new juicy energies and to find out who you really are and you to find out who your body really is, because now you no longer have all this other stew of stuff in there. So old occupants, once you've booted them out, are never able to return. They don't want to return. They bought their ticket. They have no reason to go back. It's not their place any longer. They have no interest whatsoever. So that makes life a lot simpler when that is no longer an issue. So where do you go from here? I will send you again this PDF, the ebook, and if you have more questions, you can always reach out to me through my website, which is Happy Bodying Being, or it's also Energetic Vanguard, whichever is easier for you to spell, but it'll be a link in the calendar or in my ebook here. I'm just going to invite you to consider going through this ebook, clearing out as much as you possibly can. And if you feel like you still need some assistance with getting some of the tangly pieces out, set up an appointment with me. I'd be happy to help you. My fee right now is really reasonable. It's $200, and it usually takes 90 minutes minimum to go through a walk-in transition cleanup. When I did it with my larger number, it took 3 hours in one session. It can take 2 sessions, but typically it's one session, and I'm happy to help you with that. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I hope you had fun tonight and you learned something new, and that you can go out and express you as all of you and have so much more fun in life when you get all this resolved. All right. Thank you. Bye. Appreciate you coming. Bye.